Is this the end? Or just the beginning? What if everything you thought you knew about the world beneath our feet was a lie? What if the greatest secret in human history was buried right under our noses? Today we're going to uncover the shocking truth about Lucifer's hidden kingdom. Buckle up, because this revelation will shake you to your core. Shalom, seekers of truth. Today we embark on a journey into the depths of mystery, controversy, and hidden knowledge. We're diving deep into the heart of an ancient enigma that has puzzled scholars, theologians, and conspiracy theorists for millennia. I'm talking about the legendary underground realm of Lucifer himself. But before we descend into this rabbit hole, I want you to ask yourself, are you ready for the truth? Can you handle information that might challenge everything you've been taught? Because once you hear what I'm about to share, there's no going back. Your view of reality will never be the same. Now, let's start with a bold claim that might shock you. Lucifer's kingdom is real, and it's closer than you think. I know, you're probably thinking, come on, that's just a myth. But hear me out. By the end of this video, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about the world beneath our feet. Our journey begins with the origins of this captivating legend. The idea of an underworld ruled by a fallen angel isn't just some modern fantasy. It's deeply rooted in ancient texts, folklore, and religious traditions from around the globe. But here's where it gets interesting. These stories might be more than just myths. Let's start with the religious angle. In the Bible, we find numerous references to a realm below. For example, in the book of Revelation, we read about the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit. Revelation 11:7. Now, think about that for a second. A bottomless pit. Sounds a lot like an underground kingdom, doesn't it? But it's not just Christianity that speaks of an underworld. Ancient Greek mythology tells us about Hades, the god of the underworld, who ruled over the souls of the dead. Norse legends describe Hell, a shadowy realm beneath the earth. And in Jewish tradition, we have the concept of Sheol, often translated as the pit or the grave. Now, here's where it gets really intriguing. These various underworld concepts often share striking similarities. They're frequently described as vast, cavernous realms filled with fire and brimstone. Sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly how many people envision Lucifer's domain. But let's dig deeper. The Hebrew word Sheol, Fon Pi Mar, is particularly fascinating. It's often translated as the grave or the pit, but its true meaning is much more complex. Some scholars argue that Sheol isn't just a place of the dead, but a fully fledged underworld realm. Could this be a reference to Lucifer's kingdom? Now, I can already hear some of you saying, but wait, Lucifer isn't even mentioned in the Old Testament. And you'd be right. Sort of. The name Lucifer comes from the Latin translation of the Hebrew phrase Sentiegre I Konkim Afi, Hello Ben Shacher, which appears in Isaiah 14:12. This phrase is often translated as Daystar, son of dawn, but it's been interpreted by many as referring to a fallen angel, none other than Lucifer himself. But here's where it gets really wild. What if Lucifer's kingdom isn't just some spiritual realm, but a physical place right beneath our feet? I know it sounds crazy, but stick with me. Throughout history, there have been countless reports of strange sounds coming from deep within the earth. In 1989, Russian scientists drilling the Kola super-deep borehole reported hearing what sounded like human screams from the depths. Coincidence? Or evidence of something more sinister? And let's not forget about the numerous cave systems around the world that seem to go on forever. The Sun Dune Cave in Vietnam, for instance, is so large it has its own ecosystem, complete with forests and rivers. What if these vast underground spaces are just the tip of the iceberg? What? They're actually gateways to something much larger and more mysterious. Now, I'm not saying that if you go spelunking, you're going to stumble into Lucifer's throne room. But what I am saying is that there's a lot more going on beneath the surface of our planet than we realize. And the idea of an underground kingdom, ruled by a fallen angel, might not be as far-fetched as it first appears. But here's the million-dollar question. If Lucifer's kingdom is real, what does that mean for us? Are we in danger? Or could this hidden realm actually hold the key to unlocking ancient wisdom and power? To answer these questions, we need to dive even deeper into the mystery. We need to examine the structure and nature of this supposed kingdom, look at the alleged evidence for its existence, and consider the role of Lucifer himself in this underground realm. So, are you ready to continue this journey into the unknown? Are you prepared to challenge your beliefs and confront the possibility that there's an entire world hidden right beneath our feet? If so, keep watching, because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. Now, let's talk about the structure of Lucifer's kingdom. Imagine, if you will, a vast network of caverns and tunnels stretching for miles beneath the Earth's surface. But this isn't just some natural formation. No, we're talking about an intricately designed realm, a dark mirror of the world above. Traditional depictions of hell often portray it as a fiery pit of eternal torment. But what if that's just propaganda? What if the reality is far more complex and, dare I say, alluring? Some ancient texts describe Lucifer's realm as a place of dark beauty, filled with precious gems and metals. The book of Ezekiel, for instance, says of Lucifer, "You were in Eden. The garden of God, every precious stone adorned you." Ezekiel 28:13. Now, let's consider the layout of this underground kingdom. Many esoteric traditions speak of multiple levels or circles within the underworld. Dante's Inferno famously described 9 circles of hell, each dedicated to a different type of sin. But what if these circles are actually different regions or districts within Lucifer's realm? Imagine a central city, perhaps built around Lucifer's palace or throne room. From there, tunnels and passageways might branch out in all directions, leading to various other settlements or important locations. Some of these might be places of punishment for the wicked, but others could be centers of learning where forbidden knowledge is stored and studied. And let's not forget about the inhabitants of this realm. We're not just talking about demons and tortured souls here. Some traditions speak of entire races of beings that live underground. The Norse myths tell of the Svartalfar, or dark elves, who dwell beneath the earth. In Jewish folklore, we have the Shedim, often described as demonic spirits, but sometimes portrayed as a separate race of beings created by God. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if some of these underground dwellers aren't supernatural beings at all, but highly advanced civilizations that have chosen to live apart from the surface world? It sounds like science fiction, I know. But is it really any more far-fetched than the idea of angels and demons? Now, let's talk about the energy source for this underground kingdom. Traditional depictions often show hell as a place of eternal fire. But what if this fire is actually a form of energy we don't understand? Some researchers have proposed the existence of inner Earth energy sources, like the theoretical black sun at the center of the planet. Could Lucifer's kingdom be powered by some kind of exotic energy that our surface science can't explain? And let's not forget about the potential technology in this realm. If Lucifer is as ancient and knowledgeable as many traditions claim, who's to say his kingdom isn't far more advanced than our surface civilization? We might be dealing with technology so advanced it would seem like magic to us. But here's a thought that might really blow your mind. What if Lucifer's kingdom isn't just underground, but interdimensional? Some researchers have proposed that there are multiple dimensions layered over our own, invisible to our normal senses. Could the underworld be one of these dimensions, accessible only through certain thin spots in the fabric of reality? Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds pretty far out there. And you're right, it does. But remember, we're dealing with a realm that, if it exists, is fundamentally different from our own. We can't expect it to follow the same rules as the surface world. So, what evidence do we have for the existence of this underground kingdom? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Throughout history, there have been numerous accounts of people claiming to have found entrances to the underworld. One of the most famous is the tale of St. Patrick's Purgatory in Ireland. Legend has it that St. Patrick was shown a cave on Station Island that was an entrance to purgatory. For centuries, pilgrims would spend days in this cave, believing they were experiencing a taste of the afterlife. Then, there's the story of the Siberian well to hell. In 1989, Russian scientists drilling in Siberia allegedly broke through to a hollow space. They lowered a heat-resistant microphone into the hole, and what they heard shocked them. The sounds of human screams. Now, this story has been debunked as an urban legend, but it raises an interesting question. Why do these tales of underground realms and the sounds of torment persist in our collective imagination? But it's not just folklore and urban legends. There are also some intriguing scientific findings that could potentially support the idea of vast underground spaces. For instance, in 2018, scientists discovered a massive underground structure in the Borth magnetic anomaly beneath Canada and Siberia. While they believe it's a natural formation, some have speculated about its true nature. And let's not forget about the numerous unexplored cave systems around the world. The Sac-Acton cave system in Mexico, for example, is the largest known underwater cave system in the world, stretching for over 347 kilometers. What secrets might be hidden in its unexplored depths? Now, I'm not saying these are definitive proof of Lucifer's kingdom, but they do suggest that there's a lot more going on beneath the Earth's surface than we might think. And they raise some intriguing possibilities about what might be hidden in the unexplored parts of our planet. But let's move on to perhaps the most controversial aspect of this whole theory, Lucifer himself. Who is he really, and what role does he play in this underground kingdom? In traditional Christian theology, Lucifer is often portrayed as the ultimate embodiment of evil, cast out of heaven for his pride and rebellion against God. But what if that's not the whole story? What if Lucifer's role is more complex than we've been led to believe? Some esoteric traditions portray Lucifer not as a demon, but as a bringer of light and knowledge. The name Lucifer itself comes from Latin words meaning light, bringer, or morning star. In some interpretations, Lucifer is seen as a tragic figure, punished for wanting to share divine knowledge with humanity. Now, let's consider a radical idea. What if Lucifer's kingdom isn't a place of eternal torment, but a realm of hidden knowledge and power? What if it's a place where the secrets of the universe are studied and preserved, away from the prying eyes of surface dwellers? In the book of Genesis, we read about the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God forbade Adam and Eve from eating its fruit, saying, "For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." Genesis 2:17. But the serpent, often associated with Lucifer, told Eve, "You will not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil," as Genesis 3:3, 4, 5. Now, think about that for a second. If we take this story literally, it suggests that there's knowledge out there so powerful, so transformative, that it can make us like God. What if that knowledge is being preserved and studied in Lucifer's underground realm? But here's where it gets really interesting. What if Lucifer isn't confined to his underground kingdom? What if he and his agents can move between the underworld and our surface world? This idea isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. In the book of Job, we read about Satan appearing before God along with the sons of God as Job 1:6. This suggests that even after his fall, Lucifer might have some degree of access to other realms. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, "But if Lucifer can come to the surface world, why haven't we seen him?" Well, who's to say we haven't? Throughout history, there have been numerous accounts of people claiming to have encountered supernatural beings, or to have been given secret knowledge by mysterious entities. Could some of these encounters be with emissaries from Lucifer's kingdom? But let's take this idea even further. What if Lucifer's influence on our world is more subtle and pervasive than we realize? What if he's not just some horned demon tempting people to sin, but a complex figure working behind the scenes to shape the course of human history? Some researchers have proposed that there are secret societies and powerful organizations that have knowledge of Lucifer's kingdom and may even be in contact with its ruler. These groups, They claim, use this hidden knowledge to manipulate world events and maintain their power. Now, I know this sounds like the plot of a Dan Brown novel. But is it really that implausible? Throughout history, we've seen powerful individuals and groups shaping the world from the shadows. Is it so hard to believe that some of them might have access to knowledge or power from an underground realm? But here's a thought that might really challenge your beliefs. What if Lucifer's kingdom isn't just a physical place, but a state of consciousness? What if it represents the hidden depths of our own minds, the parts of ourselves that we keep buried and repressed? In psychology, we talk about the shadow self, the part of our psyche that contains all the aspects of ourselves that we deny or repress. What if Lucifer's kingdom is a metaphor for this shadow realm within our own minds? This interpretation doesn't necessarily negate the idea of a physical underground realm. After all, many spiritual traditions teach that the inner world and the outer world are reflections of each other. As the Hermetic axiom states, as above, so below. As below, so above. But whether we're talking about a physical realm or a state of consciousness, the implications are profound. If Lucifer's kingdom exists in any form, it suggests that there's a vast reservoir of hidden knowledge and power just waiting to be tapped. The question is, are we ready to access it? And more importantly, should we? Now, I want to address something important here. This isn't about worshiping Lucifer or advocating for evil. Far from it. This is about seeking truth, wherever it may lead us. It's about questioning the narratives we've been given and being open to new possibilities. Remember, knowledge itself is neutral. It's how we use it that determines whether it's good or evil. As it says in Proverbs, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. We shouldn't be afraid to seek knowledge, but we should approach it with wisdom and discernment. So, what do we do with all this information? How do we process the possibility that there might be an entire hidden world right beneath our feet? Well, that's where things get really interesting. First, we need to keep an open mind. The world is far more complex and mysterious than we often give it credit for. Just because something sounds fantastical doesn't mean it's not true. After all, as Arthur C. Clarke famously said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Second, we need to be critical thinkers. Don't just accept what I'm saying at face value. Do your own research. Look into the ancient texts, the scientific findings, the historical accounts. See what resonates with you and what doesn't. Third, we need to consider the implications. If Lucifer's kingdom is real, whether as a physical place or a metaphorical concept, what does that mean for our understanding of the world? How does it change our perspective on good and evil, on knowledge and power? And finally, we need to ask ourselves, what are we going to do with this information? Are we going to dismiss it as an interesting theory and go back to our daily lives? Or are we going to use it as a starting point for deeper exploration and personal growth? Because here's the thing, whether or not Lucifer's kingdom exists as a physical place, the concept itself is powerful. It represents the hidden, the forbidden, the parts of ourselves and our world that we're afraid to explore. And maybe, just maybe, by confronting these shadowy realms, whether external or internal, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit. Now, let's dive deeper into the alleged evidence for Lucifer's underground kingdom. Throughout history, there have been numerous locations around the world that people have identified as potential entrances to this mysterious realm. And when we examine these sites closely, some truly fascinating patterns emerge. One of the most intriguing locations is the Cave of the Crystals in Naka, Mexico. This extraordinary cave contains some of the largest natural crystals ever discovered, with some reaching lengths of over 36 feet. The conditions inside are extreme. Temperatures can reach 136 degrees Fahrenheit with 900% humidity. It's virtually uninhabitable for humans without special equipment. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. Why would such an extraordinary, almost otherworldly place exist naturally? Could these massive crystals be serving some purpose we don't understand? Perhaps as energy conduits for a civilization that thrives in conditions we find hostile. In the book of Ezekiel, we read, "You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: carnelian, chrysolite and emerald, topaz, onyx and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise and beryl." Ezekiel 2:8, cry 1/3. This description of Lucifer surrounded by precious stones takes on new meaning when we consider places like the Crystal Cave. What if these natural wonders are actually remnants or outposts of a much larger underground network? Another fascinating location is the Darvaza gas crater in Turkmenistan, often called the door to hell. This fiery pit has been burning continuously since 1971, when Soviet scientists set it on fire to prevent the spread of methane gas. But some wonder if this site might be more than just a geological accident. The Hebrew word Gehenna, often translated as hell in the Bible, originally referred to a valley outside Jerusalem, where trash was burned continuously. The parallel to a constantly burning pit is hard to ignore. Could the Darvaza crater be a modern-day manifestation of an ancient concept, a literal doorway to the fiery realm below? Then there's the mysterious network of tunnels beneath the ancient city of Jerusalem. Some of these tunnels date back thousands of years, and not all have been fully explored. According to Jewish tradition, King Solomon had knowledge of underground passages that connected to distant locations. The Talmud even mentions a tunnel that supposedly ran from Jerusalem all the way to Rome. Now, modern archaeology dismisses such claims as legends, but is it possible there's some truth to these ancient accounts? Could some of these passages lead to places far more extraordinary than we imagine? In Revelation 9:1-2, we read, "The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace." This description of the abyss being opened sounds remarkably like a volcanic event. And indeed, volcanoes have long been associated with entrances to the underworld in various cultures. Mount Etna in Sicily, for instance, was believed by ancient Romans to be where the forge of Vulcan, the god of fire, was located. The Greeks thought it housed the workshop of Hephaestus and the prison of the monster Typhon. These aren't just colorful myths. They represent ancient attempts to explain the awesome and terrifying power of these geological features. What if these traditions contain a kernel of truth? What if volcanoes are indeed connected to an underground realm of immense power? But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from the numerous reports of strange sounds emanating from deep within the earth. In 1997, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded a mysterious sound in the Pacific Ocean that became known as the bloop. It was one of the loudest underwater sounds ever recorded, and it remains unexplained to this day. Some have suggested it could have been the sound of ice breaking off from Antarctica, but others wonder if it might have been something more unusual, perhaps even communication from an unknown underground or underwater civilization. Similarly, residents near Taos, New Mexico, have reported hearing a persistent humming sound since the early 1990s. Known as the Taos hum, this phenomenon has defied conventional explanation. Only about 2% of the population can hear it, and scientific investigations have failed to identify its source. Could this be sound leaking from an underground realm, or perhaps even intentional communication? In the Bible, we find an intriguing passage in Isaiah 14:9. Sheol below is all aster to meet you at your coming. It roses the spirits of the departed to greet you. This personification of Sheol as an active, responsive entity suggests that the underworld isn't just a passive place of the dead, but a dynamic realm with its own agency. Could the strange sounds reported around the world be manifestations of this activity? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. These are just natural phenomena that we don't fully understand yet. And you might be right. But here's the thing: throughout history, humans have consistently reported experiences that suggest there's more to our world than meets the eye. And many of these reports cluster around certain locations, caves, volcanoes, fault lines, places where the boundary between our world and what lies beneath might be thinner. Let's consider another piece of evidence: the existence of extremophiles, organisms that thrive in conditions that would be lethal to most life forms. We've discovered bacteria living in volcanic vents at the bottom of the ocean, in highly acidic environments, and even inside nuclear reactors. These discoveries have revolutionized our understanding of where life can exist. If such organisms can evolve naturally in these extreme environments, isn't it at least theoretically possible that more complex life forms could have adapted to live deep underground? In Genesis 6:4, we read about the Nephilim. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. Many scholars interpret this as referring to the offspring of angels and humans. But what if some of these beings didn't perish in the flood? What if they retreated underground, establishing a civilization away from the surface world? The Book of Enoch, though not included in most biblical canons, elaborates on the story of the fallen angels and their offspring. It describes how God commanded the archangel Raphael to bind Azazel's hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudale, and cast him therein, is Enoch 10:3-4-5. This description of a fallen angel being imprisoned underground aligns with the concept of Lucifer's kingdom being a subterranean realm.